Þá ætla ég bara að auglýsa eftir því hvort að næsti fyrirlesari hefur nokkuð laumað sér inn á þess að ég tæki eftir því. Það að segja Jakob Gunnarsson frá Skipulagsstofnun, hann nokkuð mættur á staðinn? Ef ekki, þá ég að hugsa að bjóða næstan í pontu fulltrúan frá Noregi, Knut Olav Tveit, sem var á auglýstri dagskrá. Hann forfallaðist því miður, en hann lofaði mér því að hann reyn Husbø, formaður eða CEO of Småkraft AS, former CEO of Småkraft AS, the largest small hydro developer in Norway, væri ekki síðri fyrirlesar en hann. Gjörðu svo vel, Rein. Þannig ég ætla bara að finna glærukenninguna þína.
Hvordan skifter jeg bilder? Hvor det skifter bildene?
Hvad siger du? Jeg tror, at du kan bare... Ja, det tror jeg.
Page up again. So, hello, my name is Rein Husbø. I'm going to tell you about the activities in small hydro. Do you hear me? No, I can talk like this. I will talk about the activities in small hydro the last 20 years in Norway. There has been a lot going on. This is the last picture in that language. The Norwegian Small Hydro Association was founded in 2001. Then that was when the activity started in small hydro. It's an organization for landowners owning waterfalls and for the development and operation of power plants. The members have 500 plants in operation and a few hundred in development, so quite a few members. About myself, I work as an advisor, and Knut Olav asked me to have this lecture for him. I used to be the CEO of Småkraft, the large developer. I have entered almost 300 contracts with landowners, and I built around 60 power plants, so I know quite a lot about small hydro development in general. First about the potential. There was a survey 15 years ago of a potential of 25 terawatt hours with profitable small hydro in Norway. Compared to the whole power production, it's 130, so it's around 20% potential of profitable small private hydro. I had another curve for myself, but you see a typical cost distribution. On the left, you have a lot of low-cost plants. Of course, no problem to build them, but the problem is what you do with the expensive ones. So you can have quite a large volume with very cheap energy, and then the cost goes up if you want to exploit the whole potential. This is a typical Norwegian plant in Finnmark. It's 10 gigawatt hours, 4 megawatt, a head of 230 meters and 2 kilometers of penstock and 900 millimeter diameter. None of these have reservoirs. None of these operate on separate grids. That might be different from Iceland. I don't know. Today I'm talking just about Norway. I don't know exactly how you guys have it in Iceland. So you have to see what you can, how you can compare this. In Norway, we have, first of all, privately owned waterfalls. I understand you have that in Iceland too. And we have a one-stop concession system. That's really nice. You hand in one application to NVE, and then they overrule all the other laws. That's really an efficient way of building stuff. The privately owned waterfalls, it was established by law around year 1000. The landowners has used the hydro energy for private purposes for many years, for centuries. It was re-established by law in 1887 in modern times. And so the tradition for private use of waterfalls is good. When the Energy Act came in 1922, they introduced a free power market. You could sell the power to anyone, and then you broke the first monopoly. so when you could sell the power to anyone, it made it possible for landowners to get the values out of their own waterfalls. But not much happened the first 10 years after that law came. We have 1,300 plants in Norway, small hydro plants. The last 20 years, a little more than 800 have been built. 500 of these are small hydro between 1 and 10 megawatt, most of them between 1 and 5 megawatt. And there's a lot of very small ones, but the most interesting ones are the small hydro, because there's quite a lot of money in them. It's quite a lot of economic importance for the landowners to get these plants up. As you can see to the right, we had a few small hydro plants until 2000, and then we built quite a lot. And you see the first boom 100 years ago, you had the same thing happening, and then the large hydro period came in the 1900s. But so we have had two booms with small hydro in Norway. There's a market for small hydro. When I'm talking about the market, it's the developer market. You have three kinds of developers. One is the landowner building himself, taking all the risk himself and hoping it's okay. The other is industrial investors taking most of the risk, like construction risk, power risk, hydrology risk. And you have the financial investors trying to lock most cash flows, so they don't take construction risk. They buy a turnkey plant instead, that kind of arrangements. The common business models used in small hydro is, the one is the landowner develops, builds and owns the plant himself. There has been quite a lot of that. And the other one is the landowner leases the water rights to someone else, to an investor. A water lease contract means that you don't sell the water right, you just lease it out and get it back. You get the reversion of everything after 40 years or whatever the period is. So you don't have to sell the water rights. That's a really important political issue too. You don't have to sell it. You can lease it out, and then you can lease it out again, and then again. So the long-term perspective is well taken care of. We also separate land lease or water lease and ownership of the power plant. The water lease contract is securing the rights for all the waterfall owners. So you have a lease contract with everyone, and then the ones who want to take part in the investment in the plant itself can do that separately. So by separating that, you take care of all the water rights and still open for necessary risk-taking and investors in the power plant itself. That has worked out quite well, and you have all the degrees from 99% ownership up to 100, so you can choose what kind of risk you will take yourself as a landowner. These water lease contracts, this is the profits of a company, the results. You can have a gross revenue model where the water lease is fixed in the bottom. The farmer gets the money first, and then the company has to take all the risk. That's quite predictable payments for the landowners. The other one is the profit-sharing model, where you only get paid if there's money left after all costs. That makes a much higher risk, but also you can have a much higher profit. And especially for the expensive plants, that's an interesting way. Most contracts in Norway have been a combination of these two principles. You have maybe a small gross revenue in the bottom, and then profit sharing on the top. And then there is the competition part. You need competition in all parts of the value chain. The technical hydropower development has always been competitive globally. The power market was a monopoly until this power market came in '92, and the financing was difficult for landowners for many years after that. So that's the two critical parts. If you want to get most of the value to the landowner, you need to have competition here too. So before the power market came, there was a monopoly. The local utility decided how much they wanted to pay to the landowner, and that's not a good negotiating situation. And then after this power market came, it took 10 years with nothing happening because you had no competition on the investor side. And then after the industrial investors started in 2002, you got competition on between developers, first between local power utilities and these industrial developers, and then when NVE made it available, everything with project potential on the internet, then you got a lot of financial investors increasing the competition. These commercial players, they move fast, and some of you may recognize this guy. I have had the pleasure of being compared with both Al Capone and Mother Teresa. This Mother Teresa thing was sarcastically, but I think it was so good anyway, so I used it since. But it shows there was a lot going on. It was quite new for everyone, so it was important to understand what's this really. Also, you have to understand the risk. You have to address the risk. The main risk is the construction cost, the power price, the hydrology, and also the financing. Some people close the eyes. A guy said it's less risk building a power plant than buying a car. I don't totally agree. The risk has a cost. You can hide it, but you pay for it anyway. So you have to know what risk do you want to take yourself, and who do you want to pay, and how much do you want to pay for it. And of course, these low-cost plants to the left have much less risk than the expensive ones. So you have to think differently. You need more equity on the expensive ones to be able to float. If you look at it as a ship, the ship needs freeboard to not to sink. And if some of you know what a plimsoll mark is on the side of a ship, it's the mark you shouldn't load the vessel so that it is deeper in water than that. An example, there was a plant, 0.1 million NOx in equity and 50 million NOx in debt. That's 99.8% debt. That's really high risk. The ship is loaded so that when the storm comes, or not even a storm, just a small wave, the ship goes straight to the bottom. And as you know, sometimes it doesn't rain for a day or two. So this really got into trouble and had to sell. So it's really important to understand what kind of risk you are going into. The banks did not understand that. About organizing this, the main political goal has been to maximize the profit for landowners. The key factors are knowledge, competition, and political support, not at least the last one. If some of you follow the wind resistance in Norway, you will see there's a lot of resistance against wind power. That's because they haven't managed to get the local support as we did on small hydro. To empower the landowners, they need access to knowledge. With knowledge, they can develop the project as long as possible themselves before going into contact with investors. With knowledge, they will get better competition. I know this because I've normally sat on the other side of the table, so I know quite a lot about it. Commercial players move fast, as I said. You need knowledge early in a new market. In 10 years, everything's over, so you need to make this kind of knowledge available quickly before these fast movers have taken all the project and you wonder what happened. And the knowledge makes balance around this negotiating table. An organization like the Small Hydro Association is one way of making knowledge available, only one way. NVE, I didn't mention that, but NVE have made a lot of publications around how to develop small hydro, so that's really been a useful one. This book, this is from 1913, is 100-year old, it's exactly the same. It's a book given by NVE showing people how to build small hydro plants, and they did. And so we had much of the same this time. Also, an organization is very good for getting political support. It's a good powerful tool for establishing political support. NVE did a lot of studies for the potential. The authorities supported the establishment of an organization like us. The government also defined a strategy for establishing more small hydro. That's really a good thing. Also, NVE did this screening I mentioned and put it on internet. Everyone with a computer could find this project. In the beginning, only we industrial investors were able to find them, but when they are available to everyone, that really increases the competition. And we had a lot of road shows, traveling around Norway, having meetings like this with landowners, explaining what's the potential, where is the money, what kind of risk you have. And how did it work out then? The competition was driven by the investors only. That slowed down the competition quite a lot. The screening from NVE increased the competition very much. The banks did not understand the risk. They thought, as everyone else, that the prices go sky high. They are going up and they will always go up. Of course, they did not. And when the financial crisis came and the CO2 market collapsed in Europe, the power prices in Norway collapsed in the same way. So then a lot of people got problems. Also, we have seen that political risk is higher than we thought. Sometimes you wonder what you call these banana republics. It's really frightening when suddenly someone suggests a tax of 30% extra overnight. So there is a political risk. You have to understand how to cope with it. The NVE capacity, suddenly everyone should build small hydro plants, and then we had 5 to 7 years queue lined up waiting for concession. That was a problem. Also, there have been a lot of attempts to impose taxes. Luckily, the politicians have understood this and stopped it. Also, the support scheme, certificate support schemes for renewable energy was delayed 10 years. But anyway, we have built 50 plants a year in 17 years, so there has been a lot going on. And I think the entire industry as a whole, everyone, has become quite efficient as a system. There is a conference next year for the annual Small Hydro Conference in 2020. There will be a half-day seminar there with focus on Iceland hydropower. So if somebody wants to join, you are free to. I see there's a lot of people here, and Knut Olav said they don't have to pay seminar fees. So when he gets you 200 guys visiting, I will see what he thinks, but probably he'll be glad. The Small Hydro Association also, they want to be part, if you're going to build something organizational around this, of course there will be possibilities to draw some experience from what we have done. We have done all the mistakes that are possible to do, so there's a lot to learn from that. I said that once, I've been the guy who did most mistakes, and other guy put the hand up. No, that's me, he said. A little bit of construction. The private developers have had an extreme focus on cost. We have built quite compact. This is the intake dam and intake construction for a plant. Very compact plants, and the cost focus has given quite a lot of benefit. Also, I think architecture is an important part because it's sort of the foot stamp for the whole industry. So you don't have to build them ugly. You can just put a little bit of effort. Yeah, but you wouldn't believe how some people build them. So if you try to build nice, that's what you are evaluated on later on. I haven't seen any red signs on the table here, but I'm reaching the end, so now I'm moving over to a more familiar language. Thank you, and good luck with the small hydro in Iceland. And if anyone now, I need a picture to bring home to tell where I've been. And I need everyone to put both hands up if you're positive to small hydro. That's the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was very enlightening. And now I hope there will be more questions than from before. So if anyone wants to ask him a question, please raise your hand. Yes?
When you say one-stop shop, is that when you say one-stop shop to construct a small power plant, is that a one-stop shop for everything, for all licenses, or just a part of it?
Well, not construction, just the licensing, just concession, but it's for everything. All these detailed laws, normally if you build a garage, you have to apply for a lot of other laws, but neither of these apply. So we have one application, and that fixes everything. It's really neat.
And one-stop shop also means that the environmental issues are also handled by NVE. You don't have to go to two places to get the evaluation whether you should go through environmental assessment.
Yes, and there's quite a lot of, you have to be quite thorough with the application on the environmental sides. NVE has a lot of demands on what should be in it.
Someone else with a question? No questions from this large group. Well, I think I want to have a question. How important do you think it was that NVE mapped all the possibilities and published it?
Well, I told the guy in NVE responsible for this that this was the worst thing happening to me. That's how important it was, because I was the first one. We started this competition, and when NVE came, it really made problems. It made the competition so hard. And that, of course, is good for the landowner. So it's this screening or this making it available on internet for everyone, the identification of the project, that really was an important thing.
And the organization, Smávirkjanir, how important do you think that is for the industry?
It's the only place where small hydro people can meet, so I think it's important, not at least for the political support. You really need political backup to have someone working within the local communities to get these permissions. If the local community says no on these hearings, you don't get the permission. It's that simple in Norway.
Yes, there is a question over there.
Hello, thank you for a good lecture. How is the price market in Norway? What small hydro with variable output? What do you get full? Do you get paid full price for variable output, or just a fixed base and then some percentage above that, like we have in Iceland?
Well, since we had this cable to the continent, we have cables to Denmark, Germany, and everywhere. So you have the power prices are more connected to the German, the European prices now. So the winter-summer variations we had before are not so much anymore. So for my sake, these 50 plants I had in operation had around 4% below average price. Because, so really it didn't matter too much. In the old days, when you get 20 years back, there were large differences on that price. But the last years, it has evened out very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone with a last question on small hydro in Norway, or do we just, yes, over there? Please tell your name.
My name is Friedrich. Does small hydros get any benefits from the grid, producing into small grids, and how important are certificates for the production?
Well, the L certificates used to be very important because there were going to be so much money in it, but they collapsed completely. At first it took 10 years before they came to started, and then the Swedes built so much wind power, so the L certificate system is designed so so unsmart that it collapsed. So it's really not a good system. So it doesn't mean anything these days when you do an investment. The grid constraints has always been a problem. You are always told, when I went to meet a grid company, at first you say hello, you shake hands. On the way with the hands, before you meet his hand, he says, "There's no room." So that's the attitude. No, there's no room in my grid. But of course, the grid in Norway is built, designed so it has to have capacity on the Christmas Eve, 2 hours a year. That's a waste of grid capacity. So if you just have the dialogue with the grid, we had contracts with grid companies saying that, okay, if this